What's going on, everybody? It's your boy CJ. Welcome to Find Your True Fire podcast. And today we have a very special guest here, Christian Ray Flores. How are you doing, man? How's it going?
Sup, CJ? It's a pleasure to be here.
What's up? What's up? Awesome. So this guy's a legend, y'all. We're gonna go straight into the podcast. I hope you guys have your tea, whatever your morning routine is, and let's have a good episode. So Christian, can you tell our audience a little bit about what you do and what you stand for?
That's a complicated question. I, I am sort of professionally ADD, so I am an entrepreneur. I have a couple of businesses: a marketing business, a coaching business. I'm a philanthropist. I We have a couple of projects, one in Africa, one in Ukraine, and we
Wow.
focus on kids. And I'm also an evangelist, so I lead a church here in Austin, Texas, called Tribe. And there's a few other things, but those are sort of the main four, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm definitely confused and ADD professionally.
That's really dope. It's cool that you do all these things like well, like to see that you
Hmm.
have entrepreneurship, couple multiple businesses, and you're the lead evangelist. That's no small feat. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's probably too much for anyone to do. I don't think it's a very healthy thing, but it is what it is right now, basically. So
Yeah, man, that's dope. That's really awesome to hear that. Kind of to follow up with that, like what are some core values that you follow by and beliefs that drive your decisions, like that drive your decisions to do what you do?
well, I think really primarily it's calling. It's what are you put on earth to do?
Hmm.
And that's really the core thing, because I think most of us end up living somebody else's dream, right? So you live out your parents' dreams, your community's dream. I mean, it's not necessarily bad, but it's sort of what you are imprinted as. Okay, I'm supposed to be this, 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 and this, right?
Hmm.
This composite picture of wherever that is, and that is a way to do it. And I think most people actually end up doing that. But what's harder to do is to sort of really search what is your what can you be invaluably, irreplaceably good at to serve other people. And that's, I think, my that's probably the thing that has driven me for whatever the 27, 28 years of professional
Wow.
work in, the most. And so that's sort of, even before, I've made a lot of mistakes. I messed up in all kinds of ways, but that thing I did have as a thing that helped me and has paid off in life.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love what you stand for, man. I think just calling is it's a I feel like it's a concept that people don't necessarily understand all the time.
Yeah.
Like calling it could be it could be one thing at one time, and then you could be called to do many different things at different
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
And especially for young people, I feel like even for myself, I think I got to a point where I felt I was called to this one thing, and I was almost rejecting any other callings because I thought that you had to be this specific label, like you got to be a
Yeah.
YouTuber, and that's what you got to be, and that's it. Kind of like how a rapper is a rapper, and
Yeah.
a doctor's a doctor,
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah, and
dope.
I think the people you admire are never one thing.
Mm,
Like I sort of challenge you to find me somebody who you go, this is an iconic person. Let's say in hip hop, right, or music, or politics, or tech, entrepreneurship, and what you'll find almost always, it's someone who has sort of these three or four things in the background that they reconcile into the one thing they're known for.
mm,
You know, so in my experience, it's almost like this mix of, you don't want to over specialize, but also you want to learn different disciplines that you can then incorporate into something that is this very unique offering, a unique capability or ability to see and solve problems a particular way. But then after knowing sort of these dimensions of you, and that's why calling is so important, is like, what is the secret sauce of you, right?
right.
um, then you pick the one thing that is the one overarching thing, and then you become known for that. So if you look at uh, in any significant, for example, like if you like hip hop, right? If you look at the classic guys, right? They're not just rappers, they're actors, they're producers, they're studio heads, right? You
Mm,
have to learn very different disciplines to be able to do those things, right? The
right,
Dr. Dre's of this world, they came from one place, but they ended up being more than that, right?
right.
And the reason they ended up being more than that is because they sort of refused to be defined by this what's very narrow definition of who you are.
Wow. Wow, that's facts. That's 100%. I think um that's helpful for me, but also just any other people that's looking for like your calling and searching for it too, you know. And
Yeah, it's not easy. It's
yeah,
scary. It's very scary.
right.
It's and most people don't want the fear. They want,
Mm,
I want to know what my lane is, and the world will tell you, stay in your lane. And then most people stay in the lane, and the people that win are people actually don't that leave the lane.
yep.
Create their own lane.
Create their own lane.
Hmm.
100%.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. Definitely love that. How has well, because you mentioned just your experience doing 28 years, was it 28 years of just
Yeah, I mean,
growing in your skills?
I started a professional journey. I was what, 22, something like that. I'm 55
22,
now, so whatever the math is.
33, 30,
Yeah.
something. Yeah, I
No,
should do math live, but
long time. Yeah,
that's dope. That's really cool.
yeah. And
How is like
I've had
oh,
5 careers.
five? Got
Five
you.
careers. Yeah, like that I can shape, that I can define. Say these are distinct careers
Wow.
within those years of sort of professional development, right? So.
Right. And us as people, we want to find what that is for us now. Like we want to know exactly
Hmm.
what we got to do. And
Yeah.
sometimes that halts us from actually like just creating our own lane, and stepping out on faith. That's really the stuff. How is like even if you look now, how is like reflecting on your interest in your past experience helped you like find your true passion and true purpose?
That's a good question, but I can give you like snapshots of different things. For example, like early years, right? I'm like straight out of college. I have a degree in economics. The lane to follow is to go into international trade, banking, finance.
Yep.
My past experience is I like those things. Actually, it really helped me in the long run in business, but I liked music more at the time, right? And the sort of the logic was the safe thing to do was to not pursue music because the percentage of success among musicians is very low. So in that moment, I chose music because I felt that is the thing that will drive me, have me on fire, drive excellence, drive overcoming obstacles, and that paid off because of
Hmm.
that. I could have pursued the safe route, and the safe route would have gotten me stability, financial security earlier or quicker, but I didn't have that same fire fueling me.
Yep.
So the question is, what do you pursue, right? So that's one moment. The other moment was I really wanted to. I was at the peak of my career. I was entertaining millions of people, and then
Wow.
the safe route is actually to stay in music, but the
Hmm.
calling was I really wanted to help people grow spiritually as an evangelist. I wanted to preach. You can't really combine those things very well long term. So I ended up going, okay, I'm going to phase out of music and do this other thing, and I wanted to do philanthropy, and I wanted to serve the poor, and I had these other things that felt much more naturally passionate, and I had to deal with the guilt of leaving something that most people never arrive at.
Yeah.
And you
Wow.
go, I'm being stupid right now, but I feel like this is not enough, right? And most of my surrounding people that are surrounding me going, "What are you nuts? Like this is like how many people actually get there where you are? You're living the
Right.
dream." And in my heart, then I had to sort of find this quiet place of going, but you know what? Maybe I'm just not that guy. I'm not a musician who just wants to live. All they want to do is music, and that's it. And I was very lucky to get to the place of success, but it doesn't satisfy me fully. What do I do
Hmm.
with that, right? So do I stay on my lane? That like literally 5 years before that wasn't even a lane. I made a lane,
Right.
but now I'm on that lane and I'm doing well. And I go, you know what? That lane doesn't satisfy me anymore. I have these other urges, these pulls, these passions, right?
Yeah.
So again, that now I'm on the lane that was 5 years before not safe was actually the safe lane. So now I'm being pulled in forward into something more. And I'm like, dang, I feel like I don't even know what's going to happen, but I feel like I'm not going to be happy if I just stay there because I'm not that guy. I'm just
Mm,
dissatisfied. I'm just sort of going, gosh, this feels routine to me. And at
right.
the same time, you feel guilty because you go, well, what feels routine to me is like the dream for like thousands and millions of musicians out there.
Right.
What do I do with that? Well, you follow your calling. And that's sort of my point. My point is you're meant to do more than one thing, I think, most of the time. But you pursue your calling and you're passionate. You're guaranteeing yourself a life of passion, of purpose, of mastery. Because if you're fired up, you're gonna get really good at it, at whatever it is
Mm,
that you're doing, and you overcome obstacles, so you get more complete. So I go into, I became an evangelist, like preaching. It cost me a lot of money to do that, right?
yeah.
But that gave me insights, new insights, right? You learn about people, you learn about the human nature, you learn how to communicate and move somebody. If you do this over and over and over again, right? Um, what that, and then sort of I move on. I do philanthropy for a few years, and I learned about best practices of how to serve the poor, and I learned from some of the best people on the planet. Again,
Yeah.
it's another move, right? That's a third career, and I get good at it because I now know how to be in front of people. So the stage presence part, the presentation, culture shaping, those skills are there. I know human nature, and I know compassion. I know how to mobilize volunteers. If you're a church leader, you know how to mobilize volunteers, right? So you use the first and the second thing in the third thing. I know media. So I'm in philanthropy. I'm developing projects in 9 different countries. I create a project that it was a $2.9 million grant to create an educational project for the U.S. And what do? I use my skills as a director, as a producer, as a communicator. I in, enroll somebody who's sort of famous on TV at the time to be the spokesperson because I know the power of personal brand. And we create this program for kids, inner city kids, that spread all over the U.S., got a bunch of awards, and got adopted in different countries. This is a third career.
Yeah.
You see how the progression goes, right? And then we move on from that, and we start doing um, music videos and music production for Eastern European artists with Hollywood producers. How does that come together on past experiences? Well, I use
Right.
my past experiences because of Eastern European artists were sort of my world, and I knew a lot of them. But then my wife Deb, she used to work for MTV, VH1. She has all these contacts, all this expertise in Hollywood production. I would have not even know where to start there. So we combine our forces, we start a new business, and we start doing this really high-end music videos, music production with like top experts, people that mix music for Rihanna, or people who write music for Lady Gaga, and people who shoot videos for Britney Spears or direct videos for Lenny Kravitz. Those are the people I work with.
Yep.
So you're combining now 3 or 4 different past tracks into a new track. Does that make sense?
Right. That's fire. It's almost like all these are like levels in a way.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
they're like building blocks, and sort of the common thread there is not that I'm just not can't make up my mind what fires me up. The common thread is that something pulls me, and I trust it, and I really lean into it and become excellent at it.
Wow.
Right. So then we start a new company called Third Drive Media. The music thing sort of dried up because we were focusing on a market that sort of, it was very unstable when it comes to currency and things like that. So we were priced pretty highly, so people couldn't pay for us anymore. So we had to start over basically. But you don't start from nothing because you have expertise. You know marketing, you know branding, you know how to build a website. So I basically just grab a camera and start doing video marketing, which evolved into this company that I call Third Drive, that now does web design, branding, personal branding, video, web, that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
it's so much work. But you already have all these skills, all these abilities, or even sort of this ability to overcome obstacles, right?
Yeah.
To build this new one called Third Drive, and so it's not built on nothing, but you can start over actually and start a new. So that's like my fourth career. It's sort of a fourth career between Hollywood production and marketing. Let's put it in one career. It could be two careers, right?
Yep.
And then because in Third Drive we ended up consulting a lot of tech startups. So these guys who are doing like raising millions of dollars, and they want help with messaging and branding and how do I communicate? How do I talk to investors? How do I raise money? What are the and so I have a partner who partners up with me, and he's learning from me the art of communication and branding and how do you do impactful videos. I'm learning from him what's Series A, what's Series B, how do you raise capital, how does investor think, how do I use my talents and combine it with sort of this backdrop of tech startups and uh, and help somebody raise a couple of $1 million and speak
Yeah.
to an investor in a way that they wouldn't have done on their own because they're just an engineer who the engineers over focus on tech on the sort of functionality of their thing, but they don't know how to tell a story. But I can teach them how to tell a story. But if I know this all this other stuff of the tech world, I'll teach them better, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I work with startup founder after startup founder after startup founder. I became an investor. We get some equity in some really cool companies. We make some mistakes. We lose a bunch of money. We have a couple of wins. So because of that sort of experience now of leaders who have I've been working with leaders who deal with a lot of money, a lot of growth, a lot of stuff like that, plus pastoral, plus entertainment, plus communication. I start a new company that is coaching for it's a high performance coaching for purpose driven professionals.
Yeah.
Also not from zero. It's a new thing, but it's not from zero.
Not from
It's
zero.
because it's
From one
built
to
on a
ten.
lot of foundational things that I've like over 30 years I've done, right? So that's sort of
Yep.
the evolution of calling. So I'm sort of drawing you like a very high level picture of how calling can sort of make you shift and turn. But if you're bold enough and if you're humble enough and you're hardworking enough, you can follow that calling into sort of the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Now, not everybody will be like as ADD as I am, right? But the principle still holds. I think that's sort of my point.
Yeah. Not that was rich. I think I relate to that because I think for the longest time, even before this podcast, I would always stall it because I felt that whatever I do new is starting from zero,
Yeah,
and like stepping on a faith is pretty hard. It's not. I mean,
it
it's
really
not the
is. Yeah,
easiest thing because you
yeah,
know something, you're so familiar with it. You in a way carve your own path, and it feels like in your head it could be like, wow, I got to start over, and people would like trade places to be here,
mm-hmm.
and like um it's interesting. I feel like sometimes us as people could just fight the calling sometimes, and um it's I like what you said about like not it's not starting from zero. You're actually you have the foundation of your experiences to build it,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is it's almost way more sturdy and efficient. You get to
That's right. Yeah,
take all the things you learned and apply it, and you don't have to it's really not from zero. If anything, it's a new and amazing thing that you're going to
it
create.
really is. Yeah, yeah. But I think the whole that's why calling to me it's an important piece. Is because like we just don't believe in our intuition anymore, right? We believe in okay, what's safe, what is less risk, right?
Yeah.
What is sort of the trendy thing to do, or what other people are doing that looks like it's going to offer. So you over rely on logic, over rely on your own sort of on fear actually, and
Mm,
over rely on what most people are doing. Well, the
yep.
problem with that is that if you want every most people's results, you do what most people are doing. If you want extraordinary results, don't do what most people are doing,
Right.
but it's hard to do because it's just it's scary, right?
Right. You almost can't like you can't almost see that path. You're creating it, so it's like, oh, okay. It's
Yeah,
it is
you're
yeah.
stepping into the unknown, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know what's going to happen. But if you do this over and over again, like what I'm describing, it's not really unknown, right? It's still scary,
Yeah.
and it's painful because you're building a new thing, whatever. But it's not unknown either because you understand the core principles,
Hmm.
So
You know what it takes. Yeah, right. You know what it takes to get it there. So
yeah, yeah, I
that's
mean, you,
dope.
you know the price you're going to pay, you know how long it's going to take, at least in broad strokes. You have all these other skills that were built in previous sort of things, and they help you build a new thing, right?
Mm,
So any person that inspires you have most of them have gone through these very almost like it's not one track, but it's two, three tracks and then it builds a new lane, right?
Yeah.
Even people like Steve Jobs, right? He's not, he's not a computer guy. He's a marketing guy.
Mm.
He loves innovation. He's a visionary. He loves design. So he pairs
Yeah.
up with this guy Wozniak who knows computers, and he puts the two and two together. He goes, okay, what Wozniak can do, I can package, I can sell. I know how people will receive this new thing. This, like, no one has done this before, or maybe IBM is the only one who is doing. I want a computer in every house. Like, people would go, why would you want a computer in every house, right?
Yeah.
But then he would do that, and then he was, Steve Jobs was still getting into trouble because he had skills that he didn't have yet, right? So he gets
Mm.
fired from his own company.
That.
Yeah, he gets fired from his own company by the board because there's things that he was missing, and he starts a new thing, which was the animation company, right?
Mm.
Um, that became massive, and then after succeeding, so it's a completely different medium. It's animation, it's films,
Yeah.
it's not computers. And then he gets hired back because his company that they threw him out of is about to go bankrupt, right? It's going to go belly up. And he
Right.
comes in and makes Apple what it's now, right? Because he had learned something in this other thing.
Wow.
So his calling took him even away from his original calling to this other thing, to learn new things. So he can do the primary call, the first thing, better eventually. So it's
That's
just a
crazy.
very it's a
Wow.
very squiggly line, right? Like,
Yep.
and I think most people think of these iconic figures and they think, oh, I mean, they're just uniquely gifted, and their line was like up and to the right the whole time, and it's just not true.
Mm.
So it's not. It's
Right.
full of anguish and failure and all of that stuff. So
Yeah. You definitely see like the finished product when you look at them who they are, but
yeah, yeah,
there's a lot
exactly.
of wow, I didn't even know that about Steve Jobs.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
that's
oh
that's
yeah.
pretty cool.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think about that, like what Christian, what ways can seeking out new experiences, like as you were saying, kind of help you to expand your skills and discover like your true potential?
Well, I mean, first of all, really trusting your intuition is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think not enough people, I think we're over rationalized and less intuitive than we should be,
Hmm.
because I think deep down inside there's a little voice, there's a whisper that says, this makes me feel fully alive, you
Yeah.
know. And we don't listen to the voice because we're scared of it, right? What it
Mm.
means for us. Like, if we listen to it, it will mean this and this and this and this, and that scares me, so I'm gonna ignore it. So I think the first thing is, okay, what is it that makes you feel fully alive? What is it?
Right.
What is that one thing? Is it two things? What is it? Why? What keeps you from pursuing that, or at least learning about that? Exactly. you know so I think that's like the foundational thing is.
Yeah.
And you see, like, I now in my coaching program, I work with so many incredibly talented people that have sort of lost their way. They're exceptional at what they do, but these missing pieces of this makes me fully alive and I don't do it eventually catch up with you.
Yeah.
you know and eventually you go, gosh, I just don't feel fully alive. I think like I've settled, and I might be making okay, but it's not my jam.
Right.
And I don't even know where to look because I haven't practiced this listening to your inner voice enough, right? So one of the things that we do, I mean, we have like two types of people that show up usually wanting to work with me. Is one is people who have sort of gotten stuck, and they hit this plateau and they're like, I actually don't see the path forward well. I'm just not happy with where I'm at, and I realized that the thing that got me where I'm now, it's not going to get me to where I want to go. So that's
Yeah.
one category. The second category is that, hey, I got my new opportunity. I'm hitting this new high, and I feel like I'm not equipped to actually do well in this new. So I'm doing really well, but I'm scared that I'm not, because I don't think I'm equipped for this, right? So those are the two main buckets, and
Yeah.
people, and I'm talking about people starting from age 30 all the way to their 50s, where you can hit that wall fairly early in your 30s. You go, gosh, this job is such a it annoys me. Like, so I spend 8 hours a day doing something that annoys me. I don't understand. But then that's the thing I know how to do, and they pay me well, so I'm going to keep doing it. And eventually that catches up with you. You become miserable.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think well, obviously I'm not that age, but I do resonate with just the fact, well, I'm grateful. Sorry, I meant to say like I'm grateful that that hasn't caught up to me yet
Hmm.
personally. And I think it's a good self evaluation, for
It
everybody,
is,
even
yeah.
everybody listening, just like
Yeah,
what am I doing
and
now?
I think to
Yeah.
you, don't settle, man. Like, don't let that be the thing.
Mm,
Don't be bored out of your mind doing the safe thing. You know, 'cause you're not going to be unbored just because out of magic. It just doesn't happen that way. If you're
yeah.
bored now, you're going to be bored for 10 years. Then you're going to wake up one day and go, where did the 10 years go? Why did I spend 8 hours a day doing something I don't love?
Right.
You
Whew,
know, that's
it's
not a good
fire.
feeling. Even if you're making
Yeah.
bank, that's not a good feeling.
Yeah. Right.
You
It's
know,
because it's not the money that's gonna make you want to do it. It's more like
nope.
the joy from actually doing it in the process and
Hmm.
enjoying it. Definitely.
And you're going to become, and what that also does is, is you're going to become mediocre at it.
Mm,
So if you're good enough to do good things, make good money, and you're doing this thing, and you don't want to move from it because it's safe, but you don't love it, right? You're not going to improve much. You know, you're
yeah.
going to be the ceiling of improvement is very low because you're not going to break through limitations easily.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, so you're going to end up, you start off by going, well, I'm doing pretty well on this. I'm going to keep doing it. You end up going, A, I'm bored. B, I'm miserable. C, I'm actually not very good at this anymore because I haven't improved over the years.
Mm.
You know, so.
Yeah, that's deep stuff. I
Hmm.
hope y'all are, I hope y'all are listening to this, y'all. This is like I said, I had to set the tone.
Yeah.
um, that's great. I was gonna ask you, what strategies, can you use to set and achieve your goals, and for personal growth and also like professional.
Well, I think for personal is um, developing a learning the ability to learn. That's one.
Hmm.
Like, let me put it that way. Let me reframe it for you. The skills that you need, that are the most valuable skills, are not the skills at your specific craft. Those are secondary, right?
Mm.
The skills that you need are what they call meta skills. Meta skills are skills that help you acquire all the other skills. Those are meta
Uh,
skills, right?
yeah.
So let's say you want to be great at video editing or directing or writing music or writing books or coding, right? Those are skills. The meta skill to lead to that is one, for example, the ability to learn well, learn how to
Mm.
learn, right? How do you learn quickly? How do you learn every day? How do you learn beyond your sort of what's required of you from your boss? You know, how do you learn beyond what most people can even fathom? How do you become the best in the world at something?
Yeah.
That's a meta skill, right? So falling in love with learning and understanding what your learning style is, what the rhythms are, what your routines are to learn. But I would suggest learn every day. If you have that meta skill every day, you have that hunger, that desire, and you learn something every day, you can do really well in life, right? The other meta skill is emotional intelligence.
Mm.
You know, how do I read the room? How do I read body language? How do I interact with people? How do I build deep relationships and trust and love? You know, that's a meta skill
Yeah.
because everything in life is about people. You know, it is. Your success in life hinges on people. It's all about relationships, right? So how do I learn? How do I find mentors who want to actually mentor me? You know how hard that is? It's almost impossible to find a mentor.
Mm.
You know, how do I find people who have the top world class expertise, who will give me the time of day and actually teach me how to grow? How do I
Right.
get how do I get people on board with my this idea? How do I get an editor for my book, or a publisher for my book, or a partner in a business, or a producer for my music, right? Then how do I get somebody to support me, like a guitar player, a musician, a graphic designer, a co-writer of a thing, whatever that is? How do I collaborate with people? How do I make them feel valuable and invested in? And they want to be around me. They want to be around me for a long time.
Hmm.
How do I get people to give me money and believe in my project? How do I get an investor on board? You know, that's meta skill, right? If you learn people, that's a huge meta skill. And I think the core skill of all skills is is spirituality, a spiritual practice. And the reason for
Hmm.
that is because that's a meta skill. Why? Because every single one of us walks around and we all have this question in the back of our minds. Why am I here?
Yep.
What's my place in the world? What's going to happen when I die? What's what's human flourishing in the first place, right? What's the what's the what's the meaning of life? What's my role in society? Those are huge questions, right? So, and those questions are like sometimes we don't think about it sort of consciously, but they're all there, always, and they
Right.
inform everything we do. So, if you have a spiritual practice and you understand that you are a person of divine origin, that you have a role in this world, that you have dominion and calling, and you have deep purpose, and you're uniquely qualified to do something very, very special. Everything you do, that's why it's a meta skill, right? It will inform everything you do, every
Mm.
decision, every move, every turn, every do I go left, do I go right? You're gonna, if you have a high self-esteem, if you have confidence, if you have peace in your heart because of your spiritual practice, you're gonna excel in life. So if you don't now imagine if you remove those meta skills, right? Spiritual practice, learning how to learn, and emotional intelligence, relational intelligence, right? I don't care how good of a coder you are or musician you are, or carpenter you are or teacher you are. If you don't have those skills, the skills of teaching, the skills of coding, the skills of composing music, making films, all of those skills are going to be reduced and not very effective.
Mm. Yep.
Think about it, right?
So true.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so true. Wow. I think your just view on things is so wise. I think just the idea of like the meta skills, because like you can think of people that do they do their thing, but there is some inner drive that allows them to actually do it. It's almost like
Exactly,
keys. It's like keys,
exactly.
like
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
start. That's dope.
Absolutely. I mean, I have friends who are like Ivy League level people with
Hmm.
law degrees, for example, in let's say intellectual property, right? Just and they have very little relational skills. So they're brilliant, off the charts brilliant, and they're struggling.
Mm.
They just don't do well,
Yep.
you know. Or somebody who is off the charts Ivy League, education and whatever, coding or finance, but their self-esteem is very low
Yep.
and they struggle.
Lack of self-worth, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, they
it's
struggle.
it's the it's the under the surface things like that.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Man, that's so
Mm-hmm.
true. I think like one thing even you said earlier was just about like relationships, like building, like you have relationships with people that help you to be better. How important is that to have like a mentor or like-minded people in your life in this journey in trying and finding your true fire?
It's I think it's all about basically success in life is all about relationships, different kinds. Relationship with the divine, relationship with your neighbor, your friends, and relationship with the people you're trying to serve. So it could be your clients, your volunteers, anybody, right?
Yeah.
Literally, that's it. That is it. Like if you figure those things out, everything else is downstream from there. So for example, with relationships with mentors, is you are absolutely 100% the sum of the five closest relationships you have. So if you show me basically the saying that I have, I think I have it on my website even. Show me your tribe and I'll show you your future.
Mm.
Who's your tribe? What are who are the people that you do life with, right? And who's your tribe? Who is in that tribe and what do they collectively believe about themselves, about each other, about their role in the world? How invested are they in each other? How do they do with money, with marriage, with integrity, with the role of your calling, your professional role, the spirituality, all those things, right?
Mm.
collectively they will define your future 100%. Now, and basically this is a scary, right, proposition, because if you know, if you observe life and people, you will know that most people live a life of quiet desperation, right? That's the quote that is pretty famous. So if most people live a life of quiet desperation, how do you get around people who are thriving?
Hmm.
That's not easy, right?
Right.
How do you make yourself available to them, valuable to them, so they want to be around you? You know, how do you serve them? How do you thank them? So that you're surrounded by people who will pull you up, in life.
Yep.
Yeah, that requires a lot of intentionality, like years of intentionality,
Right.
a lot of trust, a lot of investment, a lot of humility, all of those things, right?
Definitely.
So it basically that's your future. That's what it is.
Right. Like sets you set yourself up. And well, it's a good and it's a good reality check for some, because some people might not
Yeah.
um some people look at their tribe or their top 5 people, and they might not be people that are aligned with them and aligned with like their vision in a way, and aligned with I guess to help you get to where you're going. Some people hang around people that are you know that like just like kind of like community. You hang around people that known all your life and things like
Mhm.
that, which can either be something that brings you up or even keeps you put.
Oh,
um
and I mean, it might even drag you down, right?
yeah.
And because the truth is, the minute if you decide to break out of your status quo, basically to change things and create a new future, um, whoever your surrounding is, people will. If people don't want to grow, also around you, you changing makes them feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And people go, "You've changed," right? They won't tell you maybe even that specifically, but the vibe is there. Like, what's up? We used to hang out every day, playing video games for 5 6 hours until 5 o'clock in the morning. You don't want to do that anymore. You used to be my boy,
Yeah.
and you're gonna go, no, I want to write music. I want to write a book, or I want to learn coding. I want to learn entrepreneurship. I don't want to spend my time. I mean, I can play games with you maybe once a month, but I'm not gonna do it 3 4 times a week anymore.
Mm.
You know, and that you will lose relationships when you grow
Yeah.
because you can't take everybody with you. That they don't want to come, basically,
Right.
and that's heartbreaking, right? So sometimes we just don't even. So we what we do is to fit in into our current tribe. We sort of underperform to not be rejected.
Ooh. Wow.
Uh huh. Yeah, and all of us do. I mean, I do. I have to catch
Yeah.
myself going, What are you doing?
Right.
And I
That's
catch
real.
myself, and it's very real. Yeah, like you underperform to fit in.
Mm.
And the question is, why would you do that? Who does that benefit actually?
Exactly.
So those are hard things.
Yeah. The hard truth. And wow, that's deep. That's really
Yeah,
deep.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think so if you were to reflect, how for you can embracing the journey look, or sorry, embracing the journey without looking for shortcuts, because sometimes we
Yeah.
try to take those shortcuts and compromising. But how can embracing the journey without shortcuts lead to true fulfillment and success?
Well, I mean, in general, we talked about the calling, we talked about people. Even if you have to, and we talked about meta skills, right? Even if you have those three things, you're gonna do really well because meta skills will help you learn quicker, right? and
Hmm.
and be more sort of more well-rounded and develop much. It accelerates your growth. Being around people, they won't let you get away with it if you sort of do shortcuts basically.
Right.
So if you put yourself around people who have like great ambition and integrity and sort of have a holistic view of life, they will not let you coast for example, right? And then in general, I think once you have momentum, and I think momentum is a big sort of, it's a very important word, is that we get motivation out of action, not the other way around. We think our motivation comes first, but actually motivation comes second. Um, but once you have momentum, if you're like, hey, I wrote one good song, it got a lot of plays on Spotify. Gosh, I got a like a micro fandom, right? I got like 10,000 followers or something.
Mm,
Okay, I don't want to play video games anymore. I want to write more music,
right.
you know? So I think that alone, the momentum will help you as well to not have shortcuts, because you've tasted success and you've tasted momentum. And now that you've tasted it, you go, I'm all in, man. Like
Right.
you won't want to stop.
Right. You get that first come up and first kind of like, oh wow, this is legit. And it's like, oh, I gotta
Yeah.
go after it now. It's exactly.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to have shortcuts when you're
Hmm.
succeeding well.
Right. Because you miss something in the whole process. There's so much
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, you take shortcuts only when you feel very insecure and you don't have direction and purpose.
Mm,
You take shortcuts because you think you know what you want,
right.
and you don't know how to get there, so you take a shortcut.
Exactly. Well
So
said. That was 100% well said. Um, Christian, one more question. Where can someone find you online if they want to learn more, or even get into coaching? Sounds great.
you can, if you want to just sort of see some of the stuff that I put out there as content, it's christianrayflores.com. And then if you're among the few and the proud who want to really make a change and are very serious about it, then you can go to exponential.life, exponential without the E. So it starts with an X. So that's the cool way to spell exponential.
You're right.
So yeah, that's where you go, exponential.life.
Love it. I hope this episode helps someone find their true fire. Thanks so much for watching. And thanks so much for being here. Christian, it was awesome.
Thanks, CJ, man. Good luck. Good luck with your thing, and I hope it grows incredibly and you help a lot of people.
Thanks, man.